We're in a spot where we don't have to reach on a quarterback with the number 3 overall pick. That's what Joe Schoen had to say today as he spoke to Giants.com and the media down at the NFL owners meetings in Florida. He also talked about a lot of other stuff, and we got to break that down on the show. First, make sure you are subscribed to the channel. It is March 31st, which means it is the last day to help us win the subscriber battle in the month of March. We're toasting Eagles now and the Dallas Cowboys report, but it is my goal to double up Tom Downey and the Cowboys report. We're about 300 subscribers away from doing so. If you want free videos every day on the Giants and you hate the Cowboys, you're going to love this channel. Hit that big red sub button right now. Welcome into New York Giants Now by Chat Sports. I am your host, Marshall Green. Happy Monday to all of the real ones out there. We are less than a month away from the NFL Draft being here, and I cannot wait. And the biggest question is, what is Joe Schoen going to do with the number 3 overall pick? When he spoke to the media today, I'll just say this. He made it clear that it is not a foregone conclusion that they will select a quarterback. This was the question, and this was the answer. Schoen asked, the $1 million question now is, how do the quarterback signings affect the draft plans, particularly in round 1 at number 3? Joe Schoen said, since I've been here, we've tried to set it up on draft day that we could go play a game that day. I feel like we're there now. That way you don't get backed into a corner or force yourself to do anything. The only year that didn't happen was probably my first year. We had to cut several players just to get under the salary cap. There was a lot more holes. So maybe you get into some need-based picks in that scenario. But now we're in a situation where you go through the roster and say, okay, throughout the draft, where can we still upgrade? We're not done. We still want to upgrade. We have 5 picks in the top 105. We can go any position, so we're not ruling out any position. He also added, we can go any direction. It doesn't force you into a corner or force you to have to take something based on need. And he made it clear that he's not going to reach on a quarterback. All of the beat reporters that cover the Giants and do a great job, they painted the picture of, Joe Schoen says the Giants are set up to draft where they don't have to take a quarterback. He will take one, quote, if it matches up and if the value is right. As far as being able to trade up to number 1, Schoen said the other teams, namely the Titans, are still gathering information. Didn't seem overly optimistic about that one, and neither am I. Shout out to Jordan and ESPN and Dan Duggan of The Athletic singing a similar song. Much more to come from Joe Schoen, but the biggest takeaway I had from his 20-minute session with reporters at the owners' meetings were he laid the groundwork for not taking a quarterback at number 3. Now, he might be cagey, but he really hammered how you can't force the pick if you don't think a guy is a franchise caliber quarterback. Then Pat Leonard of the New York Daily News saying Schoen sounded very much like someone who would draft a non-quarterback at number 3 today. He also added Russell Wilson will take first-team snaps in the spring, as Wilson said he expected to be the starters. Connor Hughes also adding of SNY, Joe Schoen made something clear today. He won't force the issue of a quarterback with the number 3 overall pick. The quote from Joe, we could go any position, so we're not ruling any position out. And as we know, because we got to see inside 1925 Giants Drive, thanks to Hard Knocks last year, Joe Schoen is met by the head of PR, essentially, with the Giants anytime he goes and speaks with the media. Everything he says is calculated, and he doesn't really get taken off that straight and narrow path. He's never going to show his cards. And maybe today he showed you that we're not going to take a quarterback. Maybe he's saying that to let the teams know in front of him they're not taking one. It's all a game, but it does sound like they could maybe pass on a quarterback at number 3. And when you go and do the things the Giants did in the offseason by first going out and signing Jameis Winston, a long-time NFL quarterback that's had success, and you go out and you also sign Russell Wilson, you're in a spot where you don't have to maybe go and reach for a quarterback. So you have Russ, you have Jameis, and you also have Tommy DeVito on the roster. Do you feel comfortable enough starting Russ for 17 games? Do you feel comfortable enough with Jameis Winston coming in for Russ if he does struggle? We're going to find out how much faith Joe Schoen has in Russ and Jameis and how much he likes or does not like Shedeur Sanders. Either way, you got 5 picks inside the top 105. That is premium draft capital. And it's time for Joe Schoen to hit big in the NFL draft. I thought he did a damn good job in 2024. But to be frank, I thought 2022 sucked, and I thought 2023 sucked as well. He needs to hit a home run in this draft. It's a lot to say we need 5 starters out of the first 5 picks of the top 105, but can we be greedy and maybe get 4? And the minimum, it should be 3. Will that be a quarterback in the future? That's the question I want to ask you. Should the Giants pick Shedeur Sanders with the number 3 overall selection? If he is on the board, when the Giants are on the clock, should they pick him? D for draft, P for pass. Sound off for me. This will be the pinned comment on today's show. When you get hit with that YouTube ad break, scroll on down and let me know. All right, the second thing that Joe Schoen talked about that caught my eye. He kind of made it seem like Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston was the plan. And Joe, I cover this team close enough to know that wasn't plan A, that wasn't plan B, and it also wasn't plan C, and it might have not even been plan D. Raanan saying, Joe Schoen says at the owners' meetings, the Giants made an offer to Russell Wilson when he came in on his visit on that Friday, the first week of NFL free agency. One other plans for the QB position this offseason was Wilson and Jameis Winston. And that sounds good when you say that a month after free agency starts and you already got both your quarterbacks out there. But it's also okay to just admit the truth. Russ was never plan A. Jameis was never plan A. And that is totally okay. I like that the Giants had a long list of plans and contingency plans if things went this way or if things went that way. But we know the New York Giants went all out for Matthew Stafford. We know the New York Giants went all out for Aaron Rodgers. And we know the New York Giants went all out, and it was almost done at the NFL Combine when it comes to trading up to the number 1 pick to get Cam Ward. And then they landed on Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston. And he was asked about that. The question was, how would you describe the last couple of weeks and the chain of events that led you to Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston? Schoen said, you look at the pool of players that are available and the different scenarios, whether it's trades, free agent signings, or draft. You know what the pool is going to look like, and then you've just got to figure out how you can acquire the best available. It's obviously a lot of hard work by our front office, and he goes out and he names people by name, saying they do a great job with mirroring the evaluations and the values for players. Not just the quarterback situation, but even some of the other signings we had. We felt like we got targeted players that we liked and got really good value for them based on our projections. So a lot of the focus was on quarterback. And that was a little bit hectic, how everything went down, and it was dragging out a little bit longer than I'd probably like. But we're happy with the way it ended up. This is the quote that stuck out to me. That was a little hectic. Yeah, it was, because you went out, and like you said at the Combine, you are willing to take swings at the quarterback position. And you swung and unfortunately missed on Matt Stafford. And you swung and unfortunately missed on Aaron Rodgers. And you swung and unfortunately missed on Cam Ward. But you got on base with Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston. And it sounds like Joe Schoen is pretty happy about bringing Danger Russ to MetLife Stadium. Schoen on Russell Wilson saying he's had a lot of success in the NFL. He won a Super Bowl of the production because of the production that he had on the field. We haven't had that at the quarterback position since Eli Manning. That's a lot to say and a lot of praise to give Russ. Another couple quick hitters that he was asked about Russell Wilson, saying, what does Russell Wilson give you right away when he walks into the building? Schoen, he's a 10-time Pro Bowler. A guy who's thrown for over 20 touchdowns. I believe it's every year except for 2 in his career. He played 11 games last year and threw for 16 touchdowns. So the production, he knows what it looks like. He knows how to win. Leadership. I'm just excited to have a guy in the building with as many skins on the wall as he has at the QB spot. Also asked, Wilson said he's looking to lead the team in every way. Is it as much of that as it is on-field production, or do you not separate the two? Interesting answer. It's a combination of both. Players know players, and he's done it at a high level for a long time. That's where you start. Sometimes it's hard to lead if your production on the field doesn't match. Again, he's got skins on the walls. He's had a lot of success in the league. He won a Super Bowl. Some of the production that he had on the field, we haven't had at that position since Eli Manning. So just fired up about the player and the person. What stuck out to me from that answer was this. Sometimes it's hard to lead if your production on the field doesn't match. Now, who could he be talking about? He was also asked about Jameis Winston, saying, how does Jameis factor into the QB room and what led you to signing him? Joe said, we've had to play with 7 quarterbacks over the last 2 years. So backup quarterback was going to be a priority for us. No different than the swing tackle that we signed in James Hudson. Due to some of the injuries we've had and the way things went down, we knew if our starter was injured at some point that we needed to have somebody that could come in and win games for us. And Jameis has played at a high level in this league. He could still throw it. He had multiple 300-yard games last year. You're going to get another guy who brings leadership to the table as well. To have a guy who's played as much ball as Jameis, starting a lot of games in his career and still has all the physical tools to play, you feel comfortable with him going into the game and being able to execute. The Giants QB room of Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston with Tommy DeVito and maybe a rookie quarterback is probably the most talented that QB depth chart has looked in quite some time. They've both had plenty of starts under their belt. They both have multiple 300-yard games. Jameis has a 500-yard game. Russ has won a Super Bowl, was putting together a Hall of Fame career. There's more than enough talent in this QB room to at least be competitive next year, and I'm excited to watch it. Thing is, will they have time to throw? Can this offensive line be a factor in a positive way for this football team? For 10-plus years, we've talked about the O-line being the Achilles heel of this football team. Can this be the year, though, that they protect their quarterback and allow them to have success? I, like Joe Schoen, believe that if healthy, they can be a solid group. And Schoen went on to say this, when asked, you had 4 of the 5 starting offensive linemen coming back the last time we spoke at the Combine. Now you have all 5 guys coming back after bringing back GVR. How important was that for the state of the O-line? Joe Schoen saying, when Andrew Thomas was healthy last year, I was happy with the way the offensive line was playing those first 6 games they were together. I thought we were able to function offensively in both phases of running and passing the ball. Greg Van Roten also brings what people don't see, leadership. He's a force multiplier in there, which is really good for JMS, really good for Jake Kubas. Really happy to get Greg Van Roten back. He's got versatility. He played some center, played some guard, but the leadership and the veteran presence in that room was very important. I look forward to those guys continuing to grow and his leadership in that room and getting his help developing some of the guys that are young on this team. And he's not wrong. Everyone always complains, Marshall, the O-line stinks. Marshall, it doesn't matter who we have at quarterback. He can't throw. We'd have no time to throw, no time to do this, no time to do that. Well, the facts are the facts, and Joe Schoen just gave you some. When the Giants' offensive line was healthy, which was only for 6 games, they produced at a solid level. I went and pulled up the Pro Football Focus grades for the offensive line when it comes to run blocking and pass blocking from last season. Reminder, Andrew Thomas got hurt in the Cincinnati Bengals game in Week 6. In the 6 games prior to the injuries, the pass blocking grade in Week 1 was 72.3 against the Vikings. Really good. 78.2 against the Washington Commanders. Not so good against the Browns, 36.2. But a 73.6 grade against the Cowboys, 71.8 grade against the Seahawks, and 68.0 grade against the Bengals. 5 out of the 6 games registered a green color code, which means pretty damn good job. On run blocking, not as well, but still solid. 44.2, 58.2, 49.4, 63.0, 70.2. And below, from week 7 to 18, you can see the grades aren't nearly the same as they were when it comes to with Andrew Thomas. And then you look at the other stats. Total offensive line sacks and pressures for the New York Giants. The Giants allowed throughout the season 32 sacks and 233 pressures throughout the NFL year. But with Andrew Thomas, they allowed just 5 sacks and 61 pressures. Meaning, when Andrew Thomas played, the Giants allowed 0.88 sacks per game and 12.2 pressures. Without Andrew Thomas, they allowed 2.4 sacks and 15.6 pressures. So you allowed 3 times as many sacks per game without Andrew Thomas compared to with Andrew Thomas. Which means if this O-line stays healthy, they can be a solid group. And even when it comes to the run blocking department, I thought they were underrated in that aspect. A stat that I look at that I really value when it comes to the offensive line is how much yards before contact does your running back get every single snap. The Giants had a 2.5 yards before contact per rush last year. 15th best in the NFL. So you had a top half of the league offensive line when it comes to run blocking. And you allowed 5 sacks in 6 games with Andrew Thomas. If Thomas stays healthy, if Raanan stays healthy, if John Michael Schmitz progresses into year 3, if Greg Van Roten can continue to hold on strong, and Jermaine Illuminor does what he does and gets better and better like he has every single year, this can be a top half of the league offensive line. And going from 85 sacks allowed in 2023 to a top half of the league, and when it comes to the offensive line, is an unbelievable jump. There still needs work to be done, but I think if healthy, big, if healthy, big, if healthy, this O-line can produce. What's your confidence level in this group right now? Scale it from 1 to 10. 1 being you're not confident, 10 being you have the most confidence in the world. I'll say this, I'm at about a 6.5, 7, and that's a heck of a lot higher than I've been in a long, long time. I would still like to see an offensive lineman taken in the top 5 picks the New York Giants have, which are all inside the top 105. I'm going to do a video this week of my guys in the NFL draft, and a couple of them are on the offensive line that I think could be starters right away at right guard, which moves Greg Van Roten into a backup role and putting pressure and maybe a competition with JMS at center. A couple more major takeaways I have from Joe Schoen and his media availability today at the NFL owners meetings. First, though, make sure you're ready to rock and roll for week 1, and you have your Malik Neighbors jersey so you can wear it on Sundays. It's going to have a hell of a season. I think this time next year we're talking about this guy being a top 5 wide receiver in the NFL, and you should have his jersey before the blow-up. Go to chatsports.com/neighbors. Get your jersey today. That link is clickable down in the comments and description of this video. Last thing I want to talk about, which I thought was a great question, pretty much, why did you go out and prioritize signing Paulson Adebo, and why did you go out and sign Javon Holland? Joe Schoen saying this after being asked, you started free agency on the other side of the quarterbacks. What drew you to cornerback Paulson Adebo and safety Javon Holland? Joe Schoen said both of them, instincts and ball skills. The ability to take the ball away is something we struggled with last year in terms of creating turnovers. Both of those guys have a history of taking the ball away, and they both have instincts. Obviously, Tyler Newman had 13 interceptions at Minnesota. You've got guys back there now who have really good ball skills. I have a lot of faith in our defensive line that if we can create some leads during the season, those guys can pin their ears back. Then have guys on the back end that can take the ball away, are instinctive, route savvy, and also good tacklers. The other part, that is Adebo and Holland, Tay Banks, Drew Phillips, Newman, all those guys are under contract. They will be with each other for the next 3 years. Tay as well, if we do his 5th-year option. So there's a young core, a nucleus, along with Dexter Lawrence being under contract for 3 more years and Burns for 4. You're starting to see the continuity part of it come together. And we're at a point that you draft or sign guys, they could be together for an extended period of time, which I think is important. And Joe Schoen is right. The New York Giants have to do a better job on defense of getting their hands on the football. And Javon Holland and Paulson Adebo, they specialize in that. in their careers. 60 games played, 5 interceptions for Holland, 25 pass breakups, 5 forced fumbles. He's got that Peanut Tillman punch, 4 fumble recoveries, and he has a pick 6 as well. Paulson Adebo, he's got 10 interceptions in 52 games, 43 pass breakups, 2 forced fumbles, and 2 fumble recoveries. So you added 2 veterans who are good football players, who I think are just scratching the surface of who they can be and are going to help you get the ball back, which is a major need for this team. The Giants were ranked 28th last year when it comes to takeaways per game. They didn't even average a single takeaway. 0.9 turnovers forced on defense per game. Bottom 5 in the National Football League. And now with your new look secondary of Javon Holland, who you're paying premium bucks, Tyler Nubin, who you selected in the second round, Paulson Adebo premium bucks, Deonte Banks first round, and Drew Phillips in the third round, you've made major investments and spent premium draft capital when it comes to the secondary. And overall, your defense should carry you this year. We've talked about it. Big-time bucks spent at D-tackle on Dexter Lawrence. Double down at edge rusher with Brian Burns and Kayvon Thibodeau. Signed Paulson Adebo. You drafted Deonte Banks in round 1. You signed Javon Holland. You drafted Tyler Nubin in round 2. You've made serious investments at every single position group on defense. The Giants are going to be the team we want them to be. Their defense has to lead the way. Appreciate everybody for stopping by. If you haven't yet, hit that thumbs up icon and give me a follow on social media. I'm on Twitter. I'm on IG. First spot you would have heard about the takeaways from Joe Schoen's presser is on my Twitter. So give me a follow and let's go Big Blue.